Irene Wilkowitz endured a 42-year quest for justice and answers regarding her sister, Eve's brutal murder. Eve, a 20-year-old secretary from Bayshore, New York, was kidnapped, raped, and strangled after a night out in Manhattan. Her body was discovered in a yard near her apartment. The case haunted Irene, who was only 17 when she received the devastating news. Despite the passage of time, Irene remained resolute in her pursuit of truth, declaring, "She wasn't famous, she wasn't a celebrity, she was my sister, and she matters." Eve, born on April 17, 1959, in Oakdale, New York, had moved into her own apartment after their mother's passing in 1977. Eve Wilkowitz lived with her roommate, Robert Grogan, for a 2-year period, during which she worked as a secretary at a prominent publishing house in Manhattan, commuting daily by train, which entailed 2 trips lasting an hour and 45 minutes each. In 1980, Grogan recalled Eve sharing her concerns about feeling uneasy due to encounters with 2 men who would follow her from the train station, one of whom had persistently asked her out on a date, which she declined, while the other had trailed her for the entire 10-minute walk to their shared apartment. Although these incidents eventually subsided, Eve went on to meet a young writer named Jack Dempsey. On the evening of March 21, 1980, Eve and Jack spent time together in the city, watching a movie and having dinner before returning to his apartment, where she asked him to wake her in time to catch the 12:45 a.m. train back to Long Island. The following morning, March 22, 1980, Jack accompanied Eve to the train station. He had offered to escort her through the train ride, but she rejected his offer with a smile, reassuring him of her safety. He watched, unsuspecting, as she vanished into the depths of the Long Island Railroad train, never to be seen alive again. By 7 a.m. the next morning, Eve's roommate, Robert, awoke to an unsettling emptiness, her absence a palpable void. Initially, he hesitated to raise the alarm, but as the evening drew in and Eve's phone remained unanswered, a creeping sense of dread took hold. Together with family and friends, they scoured local hospitals, desperate for any sign of Eve, but she seemed to have vanished into thin air. And then, the unthinkable happened on the morning of March 25, 1980. A neighbor stumbled upon a ghastly discovery in a nearby yard. Eve's lifeless body splayed on the lawn like a discarded doll, her wrists bearing the sinister scars of her final moments. The authorities were summoned and soon uncovered the chilling evidence of her bondage, a haunting testament to her tragic demise. The police theorized that Eve may have been held captive, subjected to unspeakable horrors, and ultimately strangled to death, her lifeless body discarded mere blocks from her apartment. The news of her tragic demise sent shockwaves through her family, leaving an indelible mark on her sister, Irene, who would be haunted by the trauma of Eve's violent end for decades to come. As investigators delved into the case, they found themselves grasping at thin air, with leads scarce and fleeting. Suspects were questioned, evidence was collected, but the case remained shrouded in darkness, eventually going cold. The police even cast a suspicious gaze upon Jack, the last person to lay eyes on Eve alive. Jack was summoned to Long Island, his every move scrutinized as a person of interest in the case. However, fate intervened, as a medical student and his father provided a rock-solid alibi for Jack's whereabouts on that fateful Saturday morning, clearing his name and freeing him from the shadow of suspicion. Jack's ordeal continued as he was subjected to a lie detector test, his every word scrutinized to prove his innocence. Years later, in the 1990s, 2 detectives appeared at his doorstep, their eyes boring into his soul as they spoke to him before extracting a DNA swab, a tiny thread of evidence to be woven into the tapestry of the case. Meanwhile, Irene's existence was forever shrouded in fear, the specter of being the next target looming large. She sought solace in her work as a nanny, sharing an apartment with her son, her vulnerability a constant reminder of the terror that lurked in the shadows. Undeterred, Irene became a relentless advocate for justice, driven by a burning need to unmask Eve's killer. With no siblings to turn to, she clung to her father, but even he was cruelly snatched away in 2010, leaving her to face the darkness alone. Yet, Irene persevered, keeping Eve's memory alive through annual interviews with local newspapers, her voice a haunting whisper in the wind. Though she built a life, studying, working, marrying, and raising children, the fear of being hunted never truly left her, her pursuit of justice a constant, gnawing presence as she doggedly followed up on leads, her heart forever trapped in the abyss of Eve's tragic demise. In 2018, Irene's son introduced her to the revolutionary genetic genealogy testing that had cracked the Golden State Killer case, rekindling her hope for justice. With renewed determination, Irene reached out to renowned genealogist C.C. Moore in January 2019, only to be met with disappointment. Moore explained that New York's legal framework prohibited the use of this technique in criminal investigations, citing concerns about government misuse of personal data. Undeterred, Irene implored Suffolk County Police Lieutenant Kevin Bayer, the homicide investigator overseeing Eve's case, to find a way to overcome the obstacles. However, the path forward was fraught with challenges, as the State Department of Health required a private lab to obtain a permit, which seemed elusive. Irene's plea hung in the balance as the quest for justice teetered between hope and frustration, with the clock ticking away month by month, year by year. Lieutenant Bayer seethed with frustration as the seemingly insurmountable obstacles hindered progress. But by December 2019, Suffolk County authorities uncovered a glimmer of hope. Exploiting a loophole, they leveraged the Federal Bureau of Investigation's involvement in the original investigation to bypass New York's restrictive laws. With the New York Department of Health's permission, a semen sample from Eve's body was dispatched to the FBI's labs. Months of anticipation culminated in July 2021, when an FBI agent specializing in genetic genealogy revealed a breakthrough, a distant relative of the unknown suspect, linked by the common surname Rice. Through meticulous background checks, investigators honed in on a direct match: Herbert Rice. However, the trail led to a dead end, literally, as Herbert had succumbed to cancer in 1991. Astonishingly, a review of the original investigation revealed that Rice had flown under the radar, never considered a suspect despite an exhaustive canvassing of the area. The revelation raised more questions than answers as the case continued to twist and turn through its labyrinthine path. Herbert Rice's past revealed a trail of non-violent offenses, but none that would have compelled him to surrender a DNA sample. At the time of the murder, he was living with his mother, just a stone's throw away from the crime scene, after his wife had banished him from their home. His mother, questioned by police after the murder, claimed to have seen nothing unusual, but the proximity of their residence to the crime scene raised suspicions. Detective Jerry Botari now had a name, but needed DNA confirmation before shattering the silence with Irene. Investigators tracked down Rice's son, and after an initial hesitation, he agreed to provide a DNA sample, revealing a tumultuous relationship with his father. As the puzzle pieces fell into place, Rice's son and ex-wife filled in the gaps, shedding light on the mysterious circumstances surrounding Eve's tragic demise. The son's cooperation proved pivotal, as the DNA sample would ultimately confirm Herbert Rice's guilt, bringing a measure of closure to the decades-long quest for justice. Though innocent himself, Rice's son yearned to make amends for his father's heinous crime, seeking forgiveness from the Wilkowitz family. In August 2021, the DNA sample provided the long-sought proof, linking Herbert Rice to the murder through his son's familial DNA. Detective Batari, accompanied by colleagues, finally brought closure to Irene Wilkowitz, ending her 42-year ordeal. Overcome with emotion, Irene fell into the arms of her son, Evan, named in loving memory of her sister Eve. As the weight of her nightmare lifted, she confessed that she had steeled herself for the worst, fearing the investigation would hit a dead end. With tears of relief, Irene shared her sentiments. For 42 years, this is all I wanted. Closure. I just wanted it to be over. My sole dream was to be a mom, and I dared not dream beyond that, fearing I'd be the next target. As the truth finally set her free, Irene's words echoed a sense of liberation, her long-held fears dissipating into the light of justice. In a meeting, detectives walked Irene through the journey of uncovering Herbert Rice's guilt, and she expressed openness to connecting with his son, who also showed willingness to engage. Irene's heartfelt thanks poured out to the investigators for their unwavering commitment to solving Eve's murder. "My deepest gratitude," she said, "and my sorrow for him and his family, who must live with the knowledge of such a heinous crime. It's a burden they'll carry forever." Before publicly announcing the case's resolution, investigators exhumed Rice's body, obtaining a search warrant. The test results, released on March 23, 2022, almost 42 years to the day of Eve's abduction, confirmed the long-sought truth. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Harrison lauded genetic genealogy for its instrumental role in identifying the killer, bringing closure to a decades-long quest for justice. Commissioner Harrison hailed Irene as the true hero of the case, praising her unwavering dedication to finding Eve's killer. Meanwhile, Jack Dempsey, who had last seen Eve alive, poured out his heart in a blog, chronicling the emotional turmoil that followed her brutal murder. He described the anguish as a cosmic iron wall he had to scale to find solace. Ultimately, he expressed gratitude for the inspiration Eve sparked in him and the guidance she continues to provide in his writing journey. Dempsey's words captured the essence of the void left by Eve's passing, a sentiment shared by all who knew her. For Irene, however, some questions will forever remain unanswered. "I'll never get to ask him why," she lamented. Irene yearns for her sister to be remembered as more than just a tragic story, as a vibrant person who longed to be a guiding presence in her life. "She was real, and she wanted to be my big sister," Irene said, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and nostalgia. Crime often serves as a reflection of the complexities inherent in human nature. At times, it becomes exceedingly challenging to discern the true identity behind a facade. As one navigates through layers of deception and treachery, it can be startling to realize that the individual responsible for a crime may not be the one initially suspected, but rather someone entirely unexpected. The case at hand exemplifies this notion. It revolves around the disappearance of a 12-year-old girl, Ashley Pond, who vanished without a trace on January 9, 2002, in Oregon City. Just when the situation seemed dire, her 13-year-old classmate Miranda Gaddis also went missing 2 months later, on March 8, 2002. The developments in this case are truly beyond comprehension. Families were shattered, communities were engulfed in fear, and investigators found themselves perplexed as they endeavored to untangle the intricate web of falsehoods surrounding the situation. Each phase of the investigation brought forth unexpected revelations, leading the nation through a tumultuous journey of emotions, from optimism to despair, from skepticism to shock. What then transpired in this enigmatic case? Oregon City, Oregon, is a hidden treasure tucked away in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. This city exudes a rich history and breathtaking natural beauty, making it an essential stop for those in search of an authentic Oregonian adventure. From the iconic Oregon City Municipal Elevator to the historic McLaughlin House, there is an abundance of cultural and historical sites waiting to be explored. Whether you are a history enthusiast, a nature admirer, or simply seeking a serene escape, Oregon City offers something for everyone. However, this serene place also bore witness to the tragic fate of two young girls who met their untimely demise in 2002. On January 9, 2002, in Oregon City, Oregon, the story began. On that wintry morning, 12-year-old Ashley Pond found herself rushing to catch the school bus. After a quick breakfast and a goodbye wave to her mother, Lori Pond, Ashley set off for school in her Tommy Hilfiger jeans and spaghetti-strap shirt. Little did anyone know that this seemingly ordinary day would mark the beginning of a harrowing journey that would end in tragedy. Ashley never boarded the bus that day, nor did she arrive at Gardner Middle School. She vanished without a trace, leaving her mother, Lori, in a state of panic. As the hours passed with no sign of Ashley, Lori's worry grew. Frantically calling friends and checking with the school and dance class, Lori's worst fears were confirmed. Ashley was nowhere to be found. With no other recourse, Lori dialed 911 to report her daughter missing. Officers from the Oregon City Police Department swiftly responded to Lori's Newell Creek Village apartment, initiating their inquiry into this mysterious disappearance. Despite an immediate search effort, the authorities remained composed, entertaining the notion that Ashley may have voluntarily left and would return home soon. The news of Ashley Pond's vanishing quickly spread throughout Oregon City, dominating conversations everywhere. Speculations circulated that Ashley had indeed fled her home, yet no evidence pointed to her whereabouts. Upon inspecting Ashley's room, all her cherished belongings remained untouched, a puzzling detail for a young girl supposedly on the run. This only heightened concerns that something sinister had befallen her. Desperate to locate her, Ashley's family distributed missing person flyers, consumed by the relentless quest to find their missing loved one. Meanwhile, investigators meticulously retraced Ashley's last known movements, pinpointing her final location at the apartment complex, with uncertainty surrounding her arrival at the bus stop. Interviews with school children on the bus suggested that the disappearance occurred between leaving the apartment building and reaching the bus stop. Located atop a hill behind the complex, a wooded area nearby, often used as a shortcut, raised questions about Ashley's possible route that day. Despite the absence of solid leads, authorities, after days of exhaustive search efforts, began considering the disappearance as a potential abduction, possibly involving foul play. Investigators, devoid of any other leads to pursue, opted to scrutinize those closest to Ashley, delving deep into her life. On March 1, 1989, Lori welcomed her firstborn, Ashley, into the world as an unmarried 16-year-old. Shortly after, Lori tied the knot with her high school sweetheart, David Pond. More offspring soon graced the household, with Ashley assuming the role of elder sister to her two younger siblings. Known for her affectionate and protective nature, Ashley particularly doted on her sister Brianna, who trailed her by a mere 18 months. Described as carefree and amiable, Ashley had a penchant for entertaining others. Her bubbly demeanor earned her a plethora of friends at Gardner Middle School, where she also showcased her talent as a member of the dance team. The initial years of Ashley's life mirrored those of her peers until a tumultuous divorce between her parents at the age of 9 or 10 altered her trajectory. Amidst the divorce proceedings, David Pond stumbled upon a long-buried secret in a bid to reduce child support payments. The revelation that David Pond, Ashley's sole father figure, was not her biological father, but rather a man named Wesley Roetger Jr., shattered Ashley's world. Despite the upheaval, Ashley endeavored to embrace her newfound reality with fervor, even initiating regular weekend visits to Wesley to make up for lost time. Regrettably, the visits were short-lived. Ashley eventually expressed her reluctance to see her father, accusing him of unspeakable acts. Towards the twilight of the year 2000, Ashley disclosed to her mother and sister that Wesley had taken advantage of her, with the most recent incident occurring on Christmas Eve of that year. On the 5th of January in the year 2001, Wesley Rotger faced a daunting indictment of 40 counts of abuse. A man who could inflict such harm upon his own flesh and blood could hardly be trusted to uphold any semblance of integrity. Alongside his legal counsel, Wesley orchestrated a narrative painting Ashley as a troubled young soul, prone to weaving tales of deceit. Ashley's retraction of her accusations against her father only served to cast doubt upon her credibility. In the end, Wesley opted for a plea of no contest to a significantly reduced charge, resulting in a mere 6 months of probation, coupled with a no-contact order in September of the same year. Curiously, these events unfolded just prior to Ashley's mysterious disappearance. Lori, Ashley's mother, harbored suspicions towards Wesley in connection to her daughter's vanishing. She promptly alerted the authorities of her misgivings, citing Wesley's plausible motive and opportunity for abduction. To ascertain Wesley's potential involvement in Ashley's disappearance, investigators paid a visit to the Portland residence he shared with his father. Initially cooperative, Wesley provided a detailed account of his relationship with Ashley. However, to everyone's astonishment, he eventually confessed to the investigators about the abuse he had inflicted upon his own child. Blaming his actions on drug addiction and a series of regrettable decisions, Wesley expressed gratitude towards Ashley for exposing him. He professed his shame and expressed a desire to seek redemption in the eyes of his daughter. While his plea for forgiveness may have rung hollow, his alibi stood firm. Wesley recounted spending the morning of Ashley's disappearance having breakfast with his father at a local eatery, followed by working on an old truck together until the afternoon. His father corroborated the story, lending it an air of credibility. With Wesley Rotger temporarily sidelined, investigators redirected their focus towards another key figure in Ashley's life, her mother, Lori Pond. Revelations about Lori's less-than-perfect parenting painted a troubling picture, prompting investigators to delve deeper into her role in the unfolding saga. Lori had faced numerous allegations of neglecting her children, with her struggle with alcohol addiction significantly contributing to these claims. Between January 25, 2001 and January 9, 2002, she encountered law enforcement on multiple occasions. Specifically, there were 5 instances where authorities were called to address concerns regarding her parenting. Reports indicated that she often locked her children out of their home, engaged in domestic disputes that endangered their safety, and indulged in excessive drinking. Consequently, both police officers and representatives from the Department of Human Resources frequently visited her residence. The relationship between Lori and her daughter Ashley was fraught with tension, often erupting into heated arguments. Disturbingly, during the summer preceding her tragic death, Ashley confided in friends and teachers about being abused by the father of a friend. This alarming revelation was reported to the Oregon Department of Human Resources, yet Lori shockingly failed to take any action. An assessment concluded that Ashley and her siblings were receiving only the bare minimum of care from their mother. It was perplexing that, amidst such chaos, Child Protective Services chose not to intervene. When questioned by the police, Lori was forthright, acknowledging her tumultuous relationship with Ashley. Nevertheless, she maintained that beneath their conflicts lay a deep mother-daughter affection. She remained steadfast in her initial account to investigators, asserting that her statements were consistent. Although investigators found no compelling motives, they nonetheless urged Lori to undergo a polygraph examination. After successfully passing the test, she was cleared as a suspect. With Ashley's family members and close acquaintances ruled out, the investigation faced a dearth of leads. The vicinity of the Newell Creek apartment complex was known for its challenges, with a concerning number of sexual offenders potentially having access to the area. The Oregon police conducted interviews with nearly all of them in an attempt to uncover new leads, but unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. Once all leads were exhausted, the Oregon City Police Department sought assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation on January 22, 2002. With the aid of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the search for Ashley Pond intensified. Ashley's sudden disappearance deeply impacted the entire Oregon City community, but it was her school friends who were hit the hardest. On the morning of January 23, 2002, Anna Song, a reporter from KTU News, interviewed a few kids at the bus stop as they waited for the school bus. It was the same bus stop where Ashley had caught her bus every day before she went missing. One of the girls interviewed was 13-year-old Miranda Gaddis, one of Ashley's closest friends and her neighbor. "One of your friends or something? It's just really different and really sad," Miranda said. In a heartfelt interview, Miranda shared that she had no idea what might have happened to her friend, but she considered the possibility of kidnapping. However, Miranda also mentioned that Ashley had confided in Miranda's sister about her desire to run away from home. Despite maintaining a smile throughout the video, Miranda's concerns for Ashley were still evident. Sadly, the next time Miranda Gaddis's face would appear on the news, she too would have mysteriously vanished. Miranda's life was not so different from Ashley's. Not only were they similar in age, but they also bore a striking resemblance to each other. Their similarities did not end there, as they lived in the same apartment building, attended the same school, were part of the same dance team, hung out with the same friends, and both had been victims of abuse by the father figures in their lives. Both girls were also raised by their single mothers, who had their own struggles. The lives of the two best friends were destined to intersect one last time in a cruel twist of fate. Miranda Gaddis graced the world with her presence on November 18, 1988, in the charming locale of Oregon City, born to Jason Richard Gaddis and Michelle Duffy. Unlike her sister Ashley, Miranda was welcomed into a family where her parents were united in marriage at her birth. However, this did not shield her from the shadows of her father's abusive nature. In a harrowing turn of events in February 1995, when Miranda was merely 6 years old, her father was convicted of the kidnapping of two young girls, resulting in a mere 6-month prison sentence and an extensive 54 years of post-release supervision. This incident inevitably shattered the union between Jason Gaddis and Michelle Duffy, leading Michelle to seek solace in a new relationship. Regrettably, her choice in partners proved disastrous, as her new companion was also convicted of serious crimes and incarcerated. Consequently, Miranda and her siblings found themselves in foster care for a brief period before returning to their mother's embrace. Despite the tumultuous circumstances, Miranda thrived, cherishing moments spent with her siblings. Friends often described her as vibrant, sociable, and humorous, yet deeply compassionate. With a fervent passion for dance, she envisioned a future as a model. One of Miranda's most commendable traits was her determination to alert others to the dangers she perceived, striving to shield them from the malevolence she had encountered. Inspired by her proactive spirit, the Gardner Middle School dance team diligently prepared for a performance set for March 23, 2002, aimed at raising funds for a reward in the search for Ashley Pond, whose mysterious disappearance had cast a pall over the community for nearly 2 months. Like many, Miranda began to lower her defenses, unaware that darkness still loomed nearby. March 8, 2002, dawned as an ordinary day in Oregon City. At that moment, the community had nearly recovered from the shock of 12-year-old Ashley's disappearance, and life had resumed its usual rhythm. In the house of Miranda, the day commenced like any other school day. By 7:30 a.m., Miranda's mother, Michelle, departed for work, leaving Miranda to prepare for school. Michelle assumed her daughter would adhere to her daily routine and make her way to school independently. Little did she know that it would be the last time she would see her daughter. Around 1:20 p.m. that day, Michelle received a call from her eldest daughter, revealing that Miranda was missing from school and none of her friends had any information on her whereabouts. An anxious Michelle immediately contacted the school to investigate, only to discover that Miranda had skipped all her classes that day. Following the recent events involving Ashley, Michelle wasted no time in alerting the authorities about her daughter's disappearance. The eerie similarities between Miranda's disappearance and Ashley's were not lost on anyone, including the Oregon City Police. With the first case still unresolved, this was yet another devastating blow to the town. The community was left in shock, with fear gripping every parent's heart. The thought of the abductor still at large, targeting young girls, instilled terror in everyone. Law enforcement officials suspected a connection between the two disappearances, possibly the work of the same individual. Racing against time, they were desperate to anticipate the next move of the unknown perpetrator. Every worst-case scenario was being considered, with foul play topping the list. Despite the slim chances of the girls being found, investigators poured their time and resources into uncovering any clues that could shed light on the mystery. The town was inundated with local and state law enforcement officers, as well as Federal Bureau of Investigation agents accompanied by their expert K-9 units. Grandiose advertisements featuring the radiant faces of the young girls adorned billboards across the city, drawing attention to their mysterious disappearance. The charity event initially planned for Ashley's benefit transformed into a fundraiser for both girls. Miranda's meticulously rehearsed solo act was flawlessly executed by her elder sister. Detectives meticulously combed the area, halting vehicles and questioning locals. One particular residence piqued their interest. Members of the Oregon City Police Department paid a visit to the occupant of the house, a 39-year-old man known as Ward Weaver. Situated atop the hill where Ashley and Miranda's bus stop once stood, Ward Weaver's abode, located at 2507 South Beaver Creek Road, was leased for $600 per month. In August 1997, Ward Weaver took up residence in the rental property. By 2002, he shared the home with his 12-year-old daughter, Mallory, his 19-year-old son, Francis, and a romantic partner he had met at work. Mallory, a schoolmate of Ashley and Miranda, was close friends with both girls. They often socialized together, even beyond school hours. Mallory's residence was a popular hangout spot among their peers, as it offered a carefree environment for gatherings. Ward Weaver's expansive backyard served as a playground for the children, where they engaged in games and indulged in treats. Sleepovers were a common occurrence at Weaver's house, with Miranda and Ashley frequently joining in. Not only was Mallory well-liked, but her father, Ward Weaver, also played a significant role in entertaining the youngsters. He was regarded as the affable father figure in the neighborhood, extending a warm welcome to all. Given the proximity of Ward Weaver's residence to the bus stop where the girls were last seen, investigators deemed it necessary to pay a visit. Weaver presented himself as amicable and accommodating to the investigators. He acknowledged that both Miranda and Ashley had visited his residence, but firmly denied witnessing anything on the days they vanished. He described Ashley as a troubled adolescent, suggesting she had ample motivation to flee her home. However, he offered no insights regarding Miranda. While Weaver was not deemed a suspect, the investigators sought permission to search his property. In a gesture of cooperation, Weaver welcomed the officers to inspect his home and backyard, yet they uncovered nothing of interest. He provided an alibi, asserting he was at work on both days, and presented a time card as evidence. With no discrepancies found at Weaver's residence, detectives shifted their focus to other avenues. After conducting interviews within the Newell apartment complex, the Federal Bureau of Investigation's attention turned to two young men in their 20s, Adam and Scott, who shared an apartment. It came to light that these individuals had previously made inappropriate remarks about Ashley and Miranda, raising suspicions about their potential involvement in the girls' abductions. To gather further evidence, several undercover Federal Bureau of Investigation agents attended a prayer vigil for Ashley and Miranda, where they overheard Scott and Adam discussing the missing girls and expressing a desire to evade law enforcement. This prompted the agents to place the duo under surveillance. Just days later, the men were observed attempting to engage a young woman and lure her into their vehicle, a situation suggestive of a possible abduction, leading agents to intervene. This incident provided law enforcement with sufficient grounds to request a polygraph examination. Surprisingly, both men passed the test. Investigators conducted extensive interviews and searched their apartment, but ultimately found no incriminating evidence. Despite their unsettling behavior, law enforcement officials were unable to uncover any evidence linking them to the disappearance of the young girls. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the case seemed to be at a standstill. Just when it appeared that the investigation was losing steam, a shocking revelation emerged from an unexpected source. Now, the investigators handling the case of Ashley and Miranda's vanishing were willing to explore any lead, even if it meant delving into middle school gossip. Little did they know that what began as mere hearsay could alter the course of the investigation and expose a disturbing truth. Upon further examination, detectives discovered that prior to her disappearance, Ashley had accused Ward Weaver of inappropriate behavior and had ceased visiting his residence. Regrettably, none of her peers, including Weaver's own daughter Mallory, believed her claims. Miranda was the only one who stood by Ashley during that tumultuous time. Although the allegations were reported, they did not progress any further, and no action was taken. However, Mallory could not let go of the matter, leading to a rift that shattered their friendship. Investigators also learned that in the days leading up to Miranda's disappearance, she had cautioned a few friends against visiting Weaver's home, insinuating that he posed a threat. This revelation left investigators stunned, but it was merely the tip of the iceberg in this complex case. Upon further investigation, it was revealed that Ward Weaver had testified in court on behalf of Ashley's father, Wesley Roeder, vehemently denying all accusations and branding the young girl as a liar. Could the seemingly upstanding father be capable of such a heinous act? Were the rumors substantial enough to be believed? Investigators found themselves grappling with more questions than answers. Consequently, in May of 2002, Ward Weaver was summoned to the Oregon Police Department to undergo a polygraph examination. As anticipated, he failed the test miserably. However, aside from the polygraph, the police lacked solid evidence against this man. The test itself was futile, as polygraph tests are inadmissible in court. These tests only serve to shape the investigation, and that's exactly what they did. Ward Weaver quickly became the prime suspect. To obtain concrete evidence, investigators knew they had to delve deeper into his past. Ward Weaver was born on April 6, 1963, in Humboldt County, California, to his mother, Trish, and his father, Ward Weaver Sr. When Weaver was just 4, his father abandoned the family. Weaver and his 2 sisters stayed with their mother. Shortly after the separation, Trish met her second husband, Bob Budrow, an abusive alcoholic. In the years that followed, Trish gave birth to 2 more boys, but her second marriage wasn't any happier than her first. Weaver began exhibiting antisocial behavior from a very young age, driven by his explosive temper. It was almost like he was following in the footsteps of the father figures in his life, targeting violence towards the vulnerable. In 1981, Weaver graduated from Marshall High School in Portland and joined the U.S. Navy Reserve. He was discharged the following year for heavy drinking. However, during his short tenure in the Navy, Weaver met his future wife, Maria Stout. Soon, Weaver moved in with his mother and stepfather, along with Maria, who soon became pregnant. But the couple did not share a healthy relationship. In December 1982, Maria gave birth to a son named Francis Weaver. In August 1984, Maria and Weaver got married and soon became parents of their second son, Alex. But even then, fights continued between the couple, resulting in a situation where both of them were taking out their frustration on their children by beating them. Child Protection Services finally got involved and removed the children from the home for a while. In this tumultuous chapter of his life, Weaver yearned to forge a connection with his biological father, yet this quest for his origins plunged him into a shadowy abyss. He unearthed the harrowing truth that his father was embroiled in a trial for the heinous double murder of an 18-year-old Air Force recruit, Robert Radford, and his 23-year-old girlfriend, Barbara Lavoie, committed in the desolate Mojave Desert of California, where their remains were concealed in the backyard. By late 1984, justice was served as his father received a death sentence for these atrocious acts. Weaver later lamented his absence from the courtroom, wishing to testify as a character witness, expressing his love for his father and his desire to spare him from execution. By 1986, Weaver and Maria had settled in Fairfield, California. On June 15th of that year, he embarked on a night of revelry, which culminated in an unprovoked assault on the teenage daughters of the Ordinoa family, 16-year-old Jennifer and 15-year-old Jocelyn, leading to a 3-year prison sentence. During his incarceration, he confided to a probation officer that his greatest fear was mirroring his father's fate. While he served his time, Maria welcomed their third son into the world. Upon his release in 1991, Maria gave birth to their fourth child, Mallory. However, their struggles as parents only deepened the rift in their already strained marriage. In 1993, Maria sought a restraining order against Weaver, effectively concluding their 9-year union. By August 1997, Weaver had embarked on a new romantic journey with a data entry clerk from La Clay Chain, where he was employed in shipping. With his new partner, son Francis, and daughter, Mallory, he established a home in a rental property on South Beaver Creek Road in Oregon City. As investigators delved into the murky depths of his past, Ward Weaver made a surprising move. In a bid to portray himself as a victim of wrongful targeting by the authorities, he took a bold step. On July 3, 2002, he extended an invitation to reporter Anna Song from Katu News for an interview. By inviting the media into his house, Ward Weaver sought to bask in the spotlight, albeit in a positive manner. During the exclusive interview, when Anna inquired about his alleged failed polygraph test, he swiftly shifted the blame onto the Oregon police force, citing their incompetence. He boldly declared his refusal to cooperate with law enforcement any further, claiming they always come back seeking more assistance from him. Nonchalantly, he delved into discussing Ashley's accusations against him. When Anna probed him about his thoughts on the girl's fate, he confidently asserted that he believed they did not meet the same destiny. As the interview concluded, Anna proposed a tour of Weaver's residence. After showcasing the interior, he gracefully led her outside, strolling on the concrete slab in his backyard. Little did they know this seemingly innocuous moment captured on camera would later reveal a bone-chilling truth, an eerie revelation waiting to unfold. Weaver continued to grant interviews, vehemently denying any involvement in the girl's disappearance, portraying himself as a victim of law enforcement's narrow focus. He even boldly declared to the press his readiness to depart Oregon for good. Despite the media frenzy, law enforcement found themselves at a standstill, lacking concrete evidence to make a move. Their only hope was securing a search warrant, a precarious situation that left them on edge. In a surprising turn of events, Weaver himself would inadvertently provide the breakthrough they desperately needed. Just a month later, on August 13, 2002, a harrowing 911 call alerted the Oregon Police Department to a disturbing incident. The caller, Francis's girlfriend, recounted how Ward Weaver had assaulted her, her voice trembling with fear. Thankfully, she managed to flee to a nearby convenience store to make the call, narrowly escaping a potentially tragic fate. Law enforcement swiftly arrived at Weaver's residence, but he had already vanished into thin air. A comprehensive manhunt was initiated across the nation to apprehend him, and after several hours of relentless pursuit, their efforts bore fruit. By evening, the authorities successfully tracked down Weaver and took him into custody for interrogation. A collective sigh of relief swept through the ranks, knowing that Weaver was now confined and unable to escape the country or pose a threat to anyone else. However, the investigation into the mysterious disappearances of Ashley and Miranda was far from concluded, as the detectives awaited the crucial search warrant. Their anticipation was soon rewarded when another 911 call came through, this time from Weaver's son, Francis. He expressed a pressing need to unburden himself, revealing to the police a secret his father had shared with him just a day prior. This pivotal call from Francis Weaver proved to be a turning point in the case, enabling investigators to finally secure the long-sought search warrant. Despite the moral quandary of implicating his own father, Francis felt he was acting rightly. His relief was palpable when the Federal Bureau of Investigation disclosed that he was not, in fact, Ward Weaver's biological son, but rather the product of his mother's infidelity. On August 23, 2002, Oregon police, aided by Federal Bureau of Investigation agents, commenced a thorough search of the property. The area was cordoned off, with barriers erected to shield the proceedings from the media, as they sought any evidence linking Weaver to the missing girls. The search expanded to the backyard the following day. As police introduced cadaver dogs into the premises, hope began to wane, yet the families of both girls yearned for closure. To the investigators, the backyard resembled a scene from a chilling horror film. Upon entering, they were met with a nauseating stench that filled the air. In the backyard, a shed stood with paper strips hanging from the ceiling, adorned with deceased flies. Within that shed, investigators stumbled upon a cardboard box containing human remains. The remains were then transported to the medical examiners for identification. On Sunday, August 24, 2002, Federal Bureau of Investigation personnel revealed the identity of the human remains during a grand news conference. Although Miranda's remains were discovered, the search for Ashley continued. When the shed yielded no further clues, the task force redirected their focus to other areas of the backyard, particularly a suspicious concrete slab. This very slab was where Weaver conversed with Anna Song during his interview. Upon breaking through the cement, they uncovered 3 abnormally large barrels. Inside one of these barrels, another set of human remains was found. The condition of these remains differed significantly from Miranda's, suggesting they had been stored in a freezer at some point. After a thorough search, a freezer believed to have been used for this purpose was located. The medical examiner's office ultimately confirmed that the remains belonged to Ashley Pond. The news was overwhelming for Ashley's family as well. Ward Weaver, already incarcerated, was charged with the aggravated murders of Ashley and Miranda. These charges carried the death penalty in Oregon, a fate Weaver was now confronting. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Weaver adamantly denied any involvement in the murders. The people of Oregon City were left in shock by the turn of events, realizing the danger their children had been exposed to at the predator's residence. Naturally, they were eager to hear Weaver's account of his actions following his exposure. In early 2003, Anna Song conducted a jail interview with Weaver as he awaited trial in custody. She commenced the interview with a captivating inquiry. Weaver, it appeared, was not inclined to surrender easily. Despite his words, his demeanor clearly showed his lack of regret. It's incomprehensible how a loving father and responsible citizen from the July 2002 interview had transformed into a callous and indifferent man who refused to acknowledge the severe consequences of his actions. Going a step further, he even chuckled when reminded by the reporter about his son's accusations and his admission. Prior to concluding the interview, Anna Song inquired if he had any words for Ashley and Miranda's families. However, he might have realized that his falsehoods were failing to conceal his crimes. Instead of remaining silent, he continued to face the media, even after being advised against it by his attorneys. On March 27, 2003, Weaver's legal team filed a motion to withdraw from the case due to his non-compliance with their advice. When new lawyers were appointed, they informed the court that they required an additional year to prepare for the trial. Just when everyone thought there was nothing left but to await the trial, Weaver had a surprise up his sleeve. In early 2004, Weaver began behaving erratically. He claimed to hear voices. His lawyers filed a motion requesting a medical evaluation to ensure his mental stability for the court appearance. After a few months, the judge ruled him unfit to stand trial. On August 25, 2004, Weaver, now heavily medicated, appeared in court once more. This time, he was deemed fit to stand trial. However, Ward Weaver was a man who enjoyed playing games, and he was prepared to unveil his final twist. He wished to plead guilty to the charges and avoid the death penalty. Before the plea deal was presented to Weaver, it was submitted for the approval of the Pond and Gaddis families. Despite their strong desire to ensure that Weaver faced justice for the horrific crimes committed against their daughters, they ultimately chose to spare themselves the anguish of a lengthy trial. On September 22, 2004, Ward Weaver entered a guilty plea to the charges of aggravated murder. Prior to delivering the sentence, the judge shared some profound words. Weaver received the harshest punishment available, a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. Regrettably, the plea deal denied Ashley and Miranda's families the closure they sought. The details surrounding the girls' tragic deaths remained shrouded in mystery. It was only through the determination of Miranda's younger sister that any semblance of truth was uncovered. In 2009, she confronted Weaver in jail, seeking the answers that would bring solace to her grieving family. While Ward Weaver was meant to fade into obscurity following this chapter, he left behind a dark legacy that haunted his family. In 2016, his stepson, Francis Weaver, was handed a life sentence for his involvement in the 2014 murder of Gaddis.